people's cigarettes can cause disease in non-smokers. This brand new report on passive smoke is the green light for non-smoker groups to go full steam ahead in the efforts to ban smoking in the workplace, even to separate smokers from non-smokers in public places. The Tobacco Institute claims the report is a political move with no scientific basis at all. Is passive smoke a health hazard? Should we divide the world into smoking and non-smoking? I'm Bob Bruce, and we're going to talk about smoking next on Twin Cities Live. Well, this is certainly a, thank you. This is certainly a subject that is being talked about constantly, especially in the workplace and even in several people's homes who do not want people smoking in their homes, and then the battle of the people who smoke in the workplace that want to smoke, but their coworkers do not want them smoking. Join us today. We're going to hash this thing out because we've got both sides of the issue, and you at home are invited to join in with us on this one. Jeanne Weigum is the president of the Association for Non-Smokers, which was originally part of the American Lung Association, but now has broken off. Right, Jeanne?
That's correct.
All right. And also Scott Stapf, who is the assistant to the president of the Tobacco Institute. What is the Tobacco Institute for those of us who do not know, Scott?
It's the trade association for the major U.S. cigarette manufacturers in Washington.
Let me begin with, I guess, Jeanne, should our world be divided into smoking and non-smoking?
Well, from the point of view of non-smokers, absolutely. There's no excuse that I can see why non-smokers should involuntarily be subjected to 4,000 different components that are contained in tobacco smoke. It's a totally
4,000 different components?
4,000 different components are involved in tobacco smoke. Many of those are known carcinogens. And although they're in quite small quantities, there is no proven acceptable level of exposure to any of these components, or to many of these components.
Scott?
Well, I guess we can start out with the obvious, and that is that there's no doubt that a lot of people are irritated and annoyed by tobacco smoke. That's a very common reaction. And as a result, what we think makes a lot of sense is for people to use common sense courtesy and when they're in the presence of non-smokers. We urge that on smokers constantly. What that means in real terms is if you're smoking and somebody doesn't like it, you should move elsewhere or stop smoking until that person is gone. The question really, it seems to me, is how are we going to accomplish what Jeanne is talking about and what the Surgeon General is talking about? He wants laws on the book, what amounts to kind of a prohibition with a small p, sort of a ban on smoking here, a ban on smoking in this office, a ban on smoking in this restaurant. From our viewpoint, if individual companies, union groups, individual groups of employees, restaurants want to ban or restrict smoking, that's fine. The only thing we object to is what most people object to, and that is legislation forcing that down people's throats.
Jeanne, how do you feel about that? Is that not reasonable?
No, it's not reasonable. I think anyone who's sat in a crowded room with even 10 or 15 people smoking has known that common courtesy is not a solution. Common courtesy is not viewed as the appropriate reaction on any other health issue. I'm not sure why it should be considered a common courtesy.
We've already seen that.
Very briefly to tell you that we have just learned who the independent counsel is going to be to investigate the Iran affair and the Iran Contra scandal and investigate whether any illegalities occurred. He is going to be Lawrence E. Walsh, a former federal judge who now lives in Oklahoma City, a very distinguished establishment lawyer for many years. The formal announcement is just being made in Washington at this moment, and Judge Walsh will be sworn in within half an hour. This is a brief look at him on his front lawn in Oklahoma City just a couple of days ago. He's a former president of the American Bar Association, a former district attorney and assistant district attorney in New York City, and a former deputy attorney general in the Eisenhower administration. For 20 years, he was, as I said, a member of a very prestigious law firm, Davis, Polk & Wardwell in New York, a man who has a very wide reputation for patient legal investigation, and in the words of one, for leaving no stone unturned. So there it is, the independent counsel who may have a very long investigation ahead of him. ABC Stephen Gear asked Judge Walsh the other day what politician he admired most, and he said President Eisenhower, because he never made any rash decisions and he worked very, very patiently. We'll have a complete wrap-up on the Iran affair, Judge Walsh's career, and the power he has. He has a great deal of it on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings in New York.
This special report came to you from ABC News. We now resume our regular program schedule.
Right now, Time magazine has good news for everyone who's ever wanted to make an important phone call, but couldn't find the number. Because if you order Time now, you'll get a free gift with your paid subscription. Time's exclusive phone file. It's a combination telephone and flip file directory to keep your phone numbers where they belong, with a phone. So instead of having to reach for a number...
Wrote it down. Oh, here it is.
You just reach for the phone and the number's right there. With Time's gift, you can have all your numbers in one place. And with Time magazine each week, you can have the whole world in one place. Fascinating, exciting, entertaining, and informative. Time reaches to the heart of events and brings them home to you with a superb writing and photography that makes the experience of Time unique. And now it can be yours for almost half off the cover price. And with a thank you gift, that means you'll never have to look high and low for a phone number. Instead, it'll always be at your fingertips. Time even makes it easier for you to call with push-button dialing. It has call muting for privacy and automatic redial. There's a handy pen and pencil holder, an area code directory, even a built-in clock. It's a Time magazine exclusive, and it's yours free when you subscribe for 30 weeks of Time at nearly half off the cover price. Payable in 3 easy installments of just $9.79 each. And all you have to do is call our toll-free number.
What's the number?
1-800-621-4700.
Got it.
And with your paid subscription, you'll get Time's unique phone file free. So call now.
What was that number again? It was...
That's 1-800-621-4700. It's the most practical telephone ever invented. And it's part of Time's best offer ever. So don't miss it. You'll never lose a phone number again.
1987 is just around the corner. Boy, I'll tell you, it has gone fast, 1986. We're going headlong into a new year. And if you're like most people, you're probably wondering what that new year is going to hold for you. Why not get a sneak preview from astrologer Denny Fairchild? Here's a guy who thinks that through the stars he can figure out what's going on. One of our favorite guests. I'll tell you, he is wild. He will return to Twin Cities Live to do a special taping with us the night of Tuesday, December 30th. He will predict what is in the stars for each astrological sign. Will Capricorns seal that major business deal? Will Virgos meet the man of their dreams? What will family life be for the Librans, who is married to the Aquarian? I mean, if you're into astrology, even if you're not into astrology, this guy is absolutely fascinating. You want to be part of the studio audience because he will pick out your sign and tell you what is perhaps going to happen for you next year. That's Tuesday, December 30th, 7 o'clock at night, so you'll be able to grab the husband or the wife if they happen to work and bring them in. 641-1298 for free tickets and get an astrological jump start on 1987.
We now have the report of the National Academy of Sciences that about 2,400 non-smokers die of lung cancer every year because of exposure to other people's smoke. We have to recognize that the rights of the smoker stop when his behavior begins to influence the health risk of those in the same environment.
All right, we were back. We were waiting just a moment there for an ABC News special report. We are talking about smokers' rights and non-smokers' rights. Jeanne Weigum is with us from the Association for Non-Smokers and Scott Stapf from the Tobacco Institute. Scott, this recent report by the Surgeon General came out just in the past few days. Seems to indicate that non-smokers should have the right to say, hey, I don't want anybody else smoking in this office because it may be your decision to smoke cigarettes, but through your passive smoke, it's going to cause me to have lung cancer.
Well, we criticize that document as being a political document for one basic reason, and that
I would
is
imagine that you would.
Well, there is a basic reason. The Surgeon General has called for a smoke-free society by the year 2000. He's in the forefront of that formal movement for that. No matter what you think about that, whether it's a good or bad idea, the question becomes, how do they hope to achieve what will amount to prohibition of cigarettes in just 14 years, because that's all we've got left till the year 2000. He's made it very clear that the only way that's going to be accomplished is through legislation to ban smoking in public places and in private places like restaurants and in the private workplace. Now, this report, not surprisingly, confirms exactly what he's been saying. The National Academy of Sciences report he referred to on the tape just a minute ago actually reached completely the opposite conclusion about smoking outside of the home. It said that we do not have the scientific evidence to justify smoking restrictions on the job and in public places like restaurants. His report said exactly the opposite thing, and there's a simple explanation. That's exactly what he wanted that report to say, and he wrote it.
Jeanne?
Bull tweet.
Yeah. What do you have to say about this? Because there are laws being passed all over the country. Minnesota happens to be one of the stricter states when it comes to smoking and
also one of the
non-smoking.
least effective as well in terms of impact on smoking habits and enforcement.
Jeanne?
Mr. Stapf obviously hasn't been in Minnesota much
I grew up in
lately.
Minnesota, and I've worked in Minnesota for years.
Okay, wait. Let her have her chance to say. Go ahead.
Mr. Stapf hasn't been around Minnesota a whole lot lately, and so he may not be aware that the vast majority of Minnesotans support the Minnesota Clean Indoor Air Act, feel it should be well enforced, and go along with it. That's what Minnesotans think. We've done the Minnesota poll. That has supported that. Other polls have supported it. There's a strong movement for non-smokers to take care of themselves, and we're doing that.
Go ahead.
Mr. Stapf, I know that you believe that you can, if you have smoke in the workplace, a non-smoker can convince the smoker to smoke appropriately for that person, but I have had experience where that has not worked. I had a smoking workplace, and I became very ill to the point of thinking of giving away my personal possessions. I am now on shots for smoking. I was down to 50% breath capacity because of smoke in the workplace. And how do you explain a person like that?
Is this happening in Minnesota?
Yes.
Just curious. That's exactly the lack of enforcement and lack of
well, this
application
was before
of the
there
laws.
was any...
Before the laws?
This is 4 years ago.
4 years ago. How long have the laws been on the book? 10 years now, or?
The Minnesota Clean Indoor Air Act passed in 1975.
That's what I thought.
Enforcement.
Yeah, I'd be glad to address that
I have
question.
never been able to get a smoker to stop smoking in my presence, ever.
We have seen no problem at all with individual corporations, individual groups of employees. If they want smoking bans or restrictions in the office, they have every right, every avenue, every opportunity to do that, and people take advantage of it if that's what the people in an office want. If it's a minority of the people in the office, you get into a classic question of tyranny of the minority. If the minority of number of people in the office want something, does that mean they have the right to impose their will on the others? If they do, fine. What happens, though, what we see is that if there's a group of employees in an office that want to ban and restrict smoking, they will get together and they'll ban and restrict smoking. From our perspective, that's fine. All we're saying is that legislation is not needed to deal with the situation.
Go ahead. You're on the phone. Thank you for holding on the line. You're on Twin Cities Live. Go right ahead.
Yes, my comment is I work at a local hospital, and I have never been a smoker myself. And coming in July, the hospital is going totally smoke-free. And I think the comments that smokers get sick more often, that they cause more problems on the job, I've been there for 4.5 years, and I've seen none of this. I totally disagree. I think as a job, you're servicing both sides of the issue. You have to provide for both sides of the issue. Then there should be no smoking areas, and there should be smoking areas. One of the things, too, if you want to include it and say, as a part of you getting this job, you've got to go through in-service on smoking, on alcoholism, on drugs, that's one thing. But I don't think anyone should totally be able to say to an adult, no, you cannot smoke here.
I'd be glad to address that. I think that the caller raises a very important point, and the impression is given by many people, and I think Jeanne tried to do this just a few minutes ago, is give the impression that there is universal support for anything that an anti-smoker will propose. In point of fact, when you're talking about a total ban on smoking, which is what the Surgeon General was calling for in his report on passive smoking, you find that only 2% of corporations on a national level have total bans on smoking. The Gallup polls conducted by the American Lung Association show that only 6 to 12% of Americans favor a total ban on smoking, in other words, across an entire work site or throughout an entire restaurant. There actually is very little support for the most extreme proposals, and that's exactly what your caller is talking about, the most extreme
Where do you base,
of all the
where do you
proposals.
get this information?
The 2% figure in terms of corporations is based on the Bureau of National Affairs, which is an independent organization in Washington that did a poll of a cross-section of corporations. The Gallup polling figures are paid for by the American Lung Association, and that's where the 6 to 12% range comes from.
Go ahead.
I'm Stuart Hansen. I'm a physician at the Park Nicollet Medical Center, and we're an organization that has gone totally smoke-free. We've done this because we feel an obligation to our employees and our patients. We found that initially when we asked whether there was support for a ban, there was not support for a ban, and we began to restrict our policies. But as we restricted smoking to one place, gradually the importance of a ban across the board gained support. And as we moved ahead, we gained support to the point where we were able, over a 2-year period, to implement a total ban with very strong support of the total staff, including the smokers. So I'd encourage the caller who called in about the hospital and the policy in that hospital, to say that what's going to happen over a period of time, the non-smokers will value more highly what the ban means to them and the clean air they need in order to do their work well, in order to live their lives well. It's an important issue. The amount of smoking that in this country is causing about 15% of our deaths. I'm a physician and doing lung medicine, and what I do is treat the end stage of those diseases. And it's very good for my business, but it's very bad for the patients that I deal with and as I help them die.
Jeanne, I'd like to comment on the whole business of smoking in the workplace.
Okay.
We've worked with many companies, helping them develop smoking policies. When the Minnesota Clean Indoor Air Act first came into effect, we were primarily trying to help companies divide smoking into one side of the room and non-smoking on the other side of the room, because we erroneously believed that would work. We have discovered it doesn't work. There are problems with air circulation, moving smoke from one side of the room to the other. Typically, air circulation in a room has air coming in at various points in the room and going out at various points in the room, which causes a generalized mixing of the pollutants in the room. Therefore, it's simply logical. You cannot have smoking on one side and non-smoking on the other side and have the non-smoking section be clean. Therefore,
well, if you wanted to take one example, I know as far as ventilation that there are very few places that it would work where you can put in the same room and not have passive smoke, especially in an airline situation when you're on an airplane. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous to have smoking and non-smoking sections because it's such a small area. I mean, would you agree, at least agree with that there is no way that a smoker can be polite and courteous when he's on an airplane because it's such a small area?
Well, first of all, the segregation has been in effect since 1971. All the polls that we've seen that have been done of airline passengers indicate that there's not a major problem there as far as they're concerned. So,
what polls?
If there is, well, there have been polls that were conducted by conducted for the Federal Aviation Administration when it considered this issue in 1981 and again in 1983. Both reached the conclusion that about 82% of smokers and non-smokers had no problem with the existing arrangement. And it's not as though there isn't already a major concession as far as smoking on aircraft is concerned. You've got people not only in the back of the bus, but in a very limited section of the aircraft.
I've got to interrupt you, Scott. This is just ridiculous. I can't believe that we are acting like a legitimate health issue is something we decide by a democratic process of a vote.
That's a telling statement if I've ever heard one.
That everybody sits down and says, gee, we're going to make a whole bunch of people sick because I want to smoke. That's ridiculous.
No, what Jeanne would prefer to do is to allow a small group of anti-smokers to decide for everyone else.
Oh, wait. What do you mean a small group of anti-smokers? The non-smokers in this country are by far and away the majority.
You'll find a real distinction in many cases between people who are non-smokers and someone like Jeanne who would probably be more in the category of a professional single-issue agenda anti-smoker.
Do you smoke?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Now, do you feel, in the Tobacco Institute, does it feel that there's any place where smoke should be totally banned?
In fact, there are tobacco companies that have areas, portions of their plant where smoking is banned. We see a lot of, for example, we wouldn't exactly advise that gasoline companies have the guys at the pump smoking. It doesn't make any sense.
But not because of the passive smoke.
No, in fact,
Does the Tobacco Institute believe at all that passive smoke can be hazardous to non-smokers?
No, our opinion is exactly the same as the opinion expressed in the National Academy of Sciences report, and that is that when you look at where legislation is going to take place,
no, you're not answering my question. Does the Tobacco Institute feel that passive smoke can be harmful to non-smokers? Yes or no?
Irritation and annoyance is there a chronic health effects?
Harmful. I'm not talking about irritation. Even if it is irritation, do 2 or 3 people in the room have the right to cause discomfort and irritation on other people?
If the people in that office want to ban smoking, that's fine with us. That's their decision.
Jeanne?
It doesn't work. I'm sorry. And issues that relate to life and to health simply cannot be decided in terms of, gee, let's stand up and take a vote. It's the obligation of the employer.
Again, that's obviously...
Oh, wait a minute. Let her finish.
It's the obligation of the community to protect people who are vulnerable. And non-smokers are vulnerable people having their rights imposed by those who apparently don't care about us.
Go ahead.
I'm really spoiled because when I go to New York and they don't have non-smoking sections, I just about die. I can't enjoy my meal. I can't concentrate on what I'm doing. It really, really bothers me, and I realize how spoiled I am here being from Minnesota. And the other thing is that when I go to New York, I almost feel like a guinea pig. You know, I mean, how is this smoke going to affect me? And I don't feel like being a guinea pig for the Tobacco Institute.
We'll let this gentleman jump in.
I'm a clergyman from Minneapolis. The thing that, in all the things that I think of as a non-smoker being a victim, is my own childhood. I've been a pastor for 40 years, clergyman for 40 years, and I left home at 17 years of age, but for those first 17 years, I was a captive of my brothers and my father, who, my father died of smoking, and my brother did too eventually. But
they were smoking around you all the time.
I had no way. In fact, I didn't know you had a right. I never thought of asking them to honor a right. I really appreciate what we've come to today, where you have some rights. But I think of the children and the babies and growing up in that environment, there is no protection for them at all. I think the only...
In other words, I think your question is that shouldn't there be some protection for those who aren't able to stand up and vote in a workplace, small children, babies, to be able to stand up and vote and say, hey, I don't want this around?
He's talking about the home. I would suspect actually...
No, you take children out in public all the time.
But, I mean, in the question of the home, which is a major portion of the Surgeon General's report, is the effect of smoking in the home. I mean, I don't even know if Jeanne would go as far as proposing a law restricting smoking in people's individual homes, in their backyards, in their cars. But where does this sort of thing stop?
I wasn't recommending that. I think the only solution is when this poison is actually banned and people recognize it for what it is, and we've become a smokeless society. I think that's a very honorable goal that we've set out to attain, and I think we will accomplish it.
Good morning. You're on Twin Cities Live. Thank you for holding on the line.
Yeah.
Go right ahead. Good morning.
Good morning. I am a smoker. I've been smoking for 14 years, and I am in favor of banning smoking in public places.
Why?
Well, smoking is gross, and as hard as I've been fighting with it for many, many years to quit, I don't feel that still I have the right to inflict my bad habit onto other people. Smoking stinks. I have children in my home, 2 small ones, and I do not smoke in my home. I do not let people smoke in my home when my children are around. I don't smoke in my car when they're in my car. I ask people in other cars when my kids if they would please not smoke. And I just really think that non-smokers have the right. It makes your clothes smell. It makes everything smell. And besides, you know, the risk of respiratory problems.
Well, I think we all agree with you on that. Jeanne, here we have a smoker and we have non-smokers with us today in our audience. But do smokers have rights? This is, after all, the United States of America, and we have a right to do as we please and to be free and to have freedom. Do they have rights, even though they are a minority? And that smokers are a minority in this country. Do they have rights to pursue their lifestyle? And even though they may be killing themselves, they are killing themselves, because that definitely has been proven, is that they have the right to do it if they want to do it.
Sure, I would say smokers have all kinds of rights. They don't, however, even as a minority, have a right to inflict their will on the majority. Just given the fact that they're a minority doesn't give them special rights to harm the rest of us.
Go ahead.
I've noticed that in a lot of places, in public places, where there's smoking and non-smoking, smokers still smoke in the non-smoking, like in restaurants and airports. Do
you smoke?
No.
Have you ever smoked?
No.
How do you feel when you're around somebody that's smoking?
I feel like taking an onion and just putting it right in their face so they can smell the same thing. But, you know, when you're eating, you don't want all that smoke in your food, and you ask them, can you please leave? And they get all mad. Don't non-smokers have the right to ask a smoker not to smoke in a non-smoking area?
I would recommend that if you have problem with smoking, whether it be at your workplace or at a restaurant, and you haven't been able to resolve that on your own, file a complaint with the Association for Non-Smokers. We have an active complaint handling service, and we are very effective in helping people solve those problems. And if that doesn't work, we'll refer it to the Minnesota Department of Health, who has the legal responsibility.
We'll be right back in just a moment. We'll take a short break and continue talking about smokers' rights and non-smokers' rights on Twin Cities Live.
If you think you can never wear Lee press-on nails because of the active things you do, try these. Active length Lee press-on nails. Easy to put on as natural length, as flattering as glamour length Lee press-on nails, but in a length that beautifies active hands. Active length Lee press-on nails. Beautiful, yet sturdy enough to use over and over. They take your favorite polish so well, they're almost impossible to chip. Active women press on. Lee active length press-on nails.
Now, a new kind of antiperspirant protection that glides on. New crystal clear, Arid Glide On. Not a crumbly stick, not a drippy roll-on. New clear Arid Glide On. Clear Arid protection that glides on.
I polish away plaque when I polish my smile.
New Pearl Drops tooth polish with foaming action helps polish away plaque.
It's a great feeling.
Polish your smile with new Pearl Drops and help polish away plaque.
There's a new pet, Chia Pet, the pottery that grows. Just soak the chia seeds, spread them on your Chia Pet, and keep him filled with water. In a few days, he sprouts his own beautiful green herbal coat, and soon you've got a lovely houseplant. Everyone loves Chia Pet. They're fun to watch and easy to grow. So get one for yourself and one for that perfect gift. Chia Pet, the pottery that grows.
At Snyder, Redall, Woolworth, Snyder Brothers, and these participating hardware and drug chains.
This year, a lot of smart Santas are shopping at Best Buy superstores because Best Buy has hundreds of very satisfying gift ideas. Gifts for yourself and for your family. Gifts to capture the memories and make the holidays easier. In fact, almost everyone is shopping at Best Buy this Christmas. Shop Best Buy. The only way to get it cheaper is to get it from Santa.
You've been watching the evening news and wanted to talk back to your television set. Well, not your television set, the people on it, the newscasters. Maybe you wanted to ask a question or even disagree with what was being said, or maybe just find out a little bit more about one of the major stories of 1986, but you couldn't because the anchors, of course, can't hear you. Well, on New Year's Eve morning, December 31st, our special guest will be the Channel 5 Eyewitness News team. You'll meet Ruth Spencer, Stan Turner, Dr. Michael Breen, Lindsey Strand, Rob Lear, and Dave Dahl. They will recap the top stories from 1986. This will be your chance to be in our studio audience and ask those questions about the major news stories, weather stories, sports, medical, you name it. We'll have someone here who can answer your questions, and you can spend some time with the men and women who bring you the news each and every night. The tickets are absolutely free, and the number to call to be with us in our studio audience is 641-1298.
Ladies and gentlemen, the late Yul Brynner.
I really wanted to make a commercial when I discovered that I was that sick and my time was so limited. I wanted to make that commercial that says simply, now that I'm gone, I tell you, don't smoke. Whatever you do, just don't smoke.
Good morning. You're on the air. Go right ahead.
Yes, I've been a smoker for, or a non-smoker now for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And what gets me is standing next to somebody in the grocery store or on a bus, and my eyes water, my nose burns, my chest hurts from smelling perfumes and hairsprays. So I don't think they should separate that unless they're going to separate everything.
So in other words, if they're going to ban smoking, they have to ban all the other smells.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Well, but there is a difference here, isn't there? Because hairspray, perfumes or colognes or whatever are not going to give you cancer.
Well, hairsprays can't be too good for you if you're supposed to use it in ventilated rooms and stuff like that. And if it hurts, it's irritating me, and I don't like it. So
I'd like to comment on that. I think sometimes people throw out red herrings. They try to say because something else is a problem, therefore secondhand smoke or involuntary smoke is not a problem. People try to bring up, okay, we have this problem with auto emissions, therefore we shouldn't worry about smoking. Well, that's nonsense. We have a lot of problems which we need to solve. and indoor air pollution and secondhand smoke is one of them. I'd like to go back to something we started about a little earlier, and it's something that I've seen the Tobacco Institute do many times, and that's that they attempt to paint non-smokers as some kind of odd persons who have only one interest, one cause, and they're sort of wild people. And I don't think most non-smokers are like that. I'm not like that.
That's not accurate.
Scott, go ahead.
For starters, that's not an accurate representation of what I said at all. I was talking about professional anti-smokers, something that I think our guest falls into in that category. I'm not talking about the 70 or 65% of Americans who are non-smokers.
Well, if she's a professional anti-smoker, you're a professional smoker.
I wouldn't deny that. I wouldn't begin to deny it at all. But I guess my basic point is that you have the Surgeon General in this report released this week who says we've got to ban smoking in public places, we've got to ban smoking on the job and in your home, preferably. The problem is that is just something that most Americans are not going to agree to for a number of reasons. And we talked about the 2% of corporations, only 2% banning smoking altogether, the 6 to 12% of Americans who support a ban on smoking totally in public places, individual work sites. There's a reason why Americans feel
How
that
many?
way.
Only 2% of people?
6 to 12% of people, as I indicated earlier.
A ban on smoking in public places?
In public places. A ban. I'm talking not about restrictions, but a total ban. The reason that's relevant is because that's what Jeanne is talking about in terms of a solution. That's what the Surgeon General is talking about. You have to realize it's been radicalized to a certain extent. We used to talk about restrictions. Now we're talking about bans. And the basic point is we've been through this with liquor before. Any attempt for total
Wait. There's a very large difference between liquor and cigarettes. A person can go out and drink liquor, and all he's doing is, if he drinks it to excess, is damaging his own body.
The question is effectiveness. The question is simply effectiveness. Is it going to work? And I'll give you a good example.
Will they ever be able to ban smoking totally?
No.
I doubt it very seriously.
Has Minnesota's Clean Indoor Air Act worked? No, it hasn't.
But could they ban it?
Listen, in this program already, you've had callers talking about being bothered by smoke in restaurants. If the law was working, that wouldn't be a problem.
I'd like for Jeanne to get a chance to respond to the fact...
Well, you respond to this about...
Well, I'd like to respond. I'll respond to it then.
Is the Indoor Clean Air Act working in Minnesota?
Yes, it is working in Minnesota. We have a number of cases where people call and say, I've been to New York, or I've been to Florida, or I've been to some other state, and we're so glad to get back to Minnesota where we can breathe the clean air.
Not very scientific, but I can tell you this. When you're in the Metrodome at a Viking game, you can see across the stadium. But if you go to Detroit, where they don't have a ban on smoking inside the dome, there's a big cloud, or New Orleans, that hangs over the middle of the field.
You can go to about half the stadiums that do have
I don't want to be, I hate to interrupt because I don't want to be rude, but I have to get my point across. I don't want people who want people to breathe fresh air to be depicted as some kind of an anti-smoking radical. We are looking for a healthy way to get through our lives. And there are a number of people that are trying to do this, not just Jeanne Weigum. She certainly can address those, since we got away from it earlier. I'd like for her to address what the Clean Indoor Air Act has done since 1975 to help the situation that someone back here was talking about, help people not have to deal with involuntary smoke, how that has evolved.
All right, let's let Jeanne jump in here real quick. Go ahead, Jeanne.
In 1975, I doubt that there was a single restaurant in the state of Minnesota that provided a non-smoking section. Today, I would say if you can find a restaurant that doesn't provide an adequate non-smoking section, if you can find one of those, I'd be real surprised. Certainly there are some violations. Certainly there's problems of enforcement in some restaurants. But the majority of the places are doing real well. Work sites, we've got a long ways to go. We've probably got 30 or 40% compliance in workplaces in Minnesota. But I'll tell you what, we didn't have anything like that in Minnesota in 1975 when the Clean Indoor Air Act passed.
It is also a fact that to sit here and say let's ban smoking in the business place and in the workplace is far easier said than done. It is very, very complicated and a very, very difficult thing to achieve, and also very, very expensive, which means it's very, very difficult for many businesses to accomplish. Now, you are a smoker, correct?
Correct.
How do you feel about this? Because there are a lot of people now that make smokers feel like they're almost like criminals because they walk around and smoke cigarettes.
Yeah, I'm upset because I think we have a right to do what we want to. And I think that's right that in restaurants we can be, separated. But I think it's wrong to tell us that we can't smoke because we have rights too. And everything we do affects somebody else, and this is no different. Everything affects somebody.
I think the important thing is that most of us aren't trying to take away anyone's right to smoke. What we are trying to do, what we are trying to do is have people who smoke pay all of their own consequences. That means health costs. That means indoor air pollution. They need not foist that upon the rest of us.
A smoke-free society by the year 2000 means a prohibition, whether it's with a capital P by a federal or state level act, whether it's a small p through a series of restrictions on individual restaurants, individual work sites. There can't be any mistaking the fact that what's going to happen to this person is that she is going to be told by some point, if these people are successful, that she cannot smoke.
Let me take this call. Good morning. Thank you for holding on the line. Go right ahead.
Yes, I'd just like to say that if you'd like to stop smoking in restaurants or put a total ban on it, that's virtually impossible because most restaurant employees smoke. I'm a smoker and I work in a hotel, and I can tell you that a lot of people do smoke and there won't be anybody to wait on these people. And most people who come to restaurants prefer to sit in the smoking station because they do smoke themselves. And also, I'd like to point out that there's maybe something in the nutrition of the American that affects how the cigarette smoke is in their body, because I read that in Japan, most people, or most men smoke in Japan, and they have the lowest rate of heart problems of anyone in the world.
So you're saying that the nutrition of Americans make them more susceptible to lung cancer?
The lady said that hairspray...
Well, I think we'd have to have scientific studies.
Well, no.
That's kind of...
No, there was, I read in a magazine that the ratio of heart disease among Japanese men...
But we're not talking about Japan here. We're talking we're talking about in this country.
What I'm saying is, it has to be something in their diet. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? They don't eat red meat or as much as we do.
Okay, all right.
There's a lot of things other than smoking. If we ban smoking, fine, ban smoking. Okay, and then there's...
All right, thank you. You made your point. Let me move on here. Go ahead.
You know, I'm kind of tired of this guy here. He's comparing apples and oranges, prohibition and that kind of thing. The thing he's not saying is the Attorney General wants him out of a job. It's not just there's no smoking in 2000. He wants the tobacco industry just gone.
Do you mean Surgeon General?
Yeah, the Surgeon General. I'm sorry.
Fine.
He wants you out of here in 13 years. You better start typing up your resume because the ball's starting to roll and we're pissed off.
No, it's possible that we may see more severe action at the federal level even against cigarette smoking. But anybody who's vaguely familiar with what happened with liquor in terms of the enforcement of that, organized crime, will know immediately that prohibition, no matter what form it's in, is simply not going to work. As long as we're a free society, adults will make the decisions they want to make, whether it's against the law or whether it's...
Okay, all right, you're talking about making the decisions. Well, then why do we have to... you know, some people, there's a lot of criticism coming up now to the tobacco industry saying, okay, you want to sell your cigarettes, if people want to smoke, let them go out and seek and find them, but why do we have to have advertising? Why do we have to push the product? Why do we have to
very simple.
Try to acquire new people to smoke?
It's the same basic problem that underlies the problem with the ban proposals, that underlies the problem with the attack on cigarette advertising. The product is legal. If you want to try to ban the product, go to it. Let's have that debate, and I'd love to have it. Let's not have these roundabout approaches like banning the use of the product or banning the advertising of the product. The complaints that you hear are made against the product. So let's get to the debate about banning the product altogether again. And I can tell you who's going to win that. It's very clear from national sentiment that there's very little support at all for a ban on either alcohol or cigarettes.
And we'll be back in just a moment. Hi, I'm Bob Bruce, and this is my son, and one of the joys of being a father is watching him open up presents on Christmas morning. But not all parents are so fortunate. In fact, many children will go without gifts this year unless you can help. Next time you shop, please pick up an extra toy and bring it to any Toys for Tots collection point, including KSTP-TV at 3415 University Avenue. Each toy will bring a smile to a worthy child. After all, isn't that what Christmas is all about?
This Christmas, give your kids sweet dreams night after night with a Sun Valley waterbed. Waterbeds make bedtime special. Kids fall asleep fast and wake up with an edge for the new day. Choose from a variety of styles, starting at $109. Add color to their rooms with reversible comforters and matching sheets, now 40% off. Give your kids the best in beds for Christmas and pay nothing till March. So for sweet dreams night after night, make it a Sun Valley waterbed Christmas.
Hi, I'm Mike Bauer. I'd like to invite you to the Blaine Flea Market for a unique shopping experience.
Come see Brian with vacuums to service and sell. Doug has lots of antiques and collectibles. Visit Chuck for dolls and accessories. Leonard has a wide variety of ceramic sculptures, and don't miss the gigantic costume jewelry expo with over 100,000 pieces on display. All at the Blaine Flea Market, open every day until Christmas.
So come on out to the Blaine Flea Market, located at 109th and Central in Blaine.
Miserable cold, huh? You know I feel bad when you feel bad. So I brought you this new Neocitrin cold medicine. It's strong medicine for your poor stuffed up nose and the sneezing and those awful aches and pains and fever. But the best part is Neocitrin's hot and lemony. So it'll feel nice and soothing going down. You know, I think you're going to feel better real soon.
New Neocitrin cold medicine. A little warmth for your miserable cold.
Staff of the Tobacco Institute and Jenny Weigum of the Association of Non-Smokers, and you're a smoker.
Yes, I am. I was wondering, in school we are told that we can smoke in certain places, and if our parents give us permission to be smoking, some schools are saying now that you can't smoke, and a lot of schools, I know a school in my district last year, a senior high had a walkout, and a lot of the non-smoking kids walked out too because they felt it was against our rights as smokers. And I want to know how you feel about that.
Now, Scott, what about...
I don't think kids have any right to smoke at all. I don't think children, teenagers should be smoking under any circumstances.
But if you don't think that children should be smoking, yet you have advertising that makes it look very glamorous and is obviously directed to try to lure new smokers, I'm sure the tobacco industry would love to have new smokers.
There's absolutely nothing different between cigarette advertising and liquor advertising, automobile advertising, the advertising of a lot of other legal products. We've got a lot of research on what causes kids to smoke, and time again you see it's peer pressure, which I think makes sense when you're talking about kids, and the role of parents in the home, whether or not they smoke.
A lot of the times, though, our parents give us permission to smoke. My parents in my home say that it's fine if I smoke as long as I don't smoke around my sisters and brother.
Well, personally, I would
Yes,
disagree
my parents
with that
do.
very strongly.
That was their decision, and I didn't even start smoking because of peer pressure. I started smoking because I wanted to, and I think a lot of kids have started smoking because of that lately. I think peer pressure, in a lot of cases with drugs and smoking and alcohol and everything, is just a thing for adults to use against us. A lot of kids, if they don't want to, they know how to say no.
So, Scott, are you saying that the tobacco industry does not want any young smokers? They do not want people to pick up smoking?
No, we're opposed to smoking by teenagers. In fact, we've worked very closely at the Minnesota chapter of the National Association of State Boards of Education with a program called Helping Youth Decide, which is designed to discourage teenage smoking. It's been distributed to several thousand parents in...
Where are the ads aimed at? I mean, why do they... If you've already got a group of smokers, and they're adult smokers, then why advertise?
Well,
unless you're trying to get new smokers.
There are 244 different brands on the market. If there was one company or one brand or just a series of small number of brands with one company, it wouldn't make any sense at all to advertise. But you've got 7 major companies with 244 brands. Obviously, they're very interested in getting smokers to go from one brand to another, and that's what the bulk of the advertising is about.
I gotta talk here.
Go ahead, Jeanne. Come right in here. This is...
Okay.
Don't wait for me.
The idea that advertising is aimed at smokers trying to get them to switch from one brand to another brand is simply not true. Cigarettes are one of the areas where there's more brand loyalty than there is to peanut butter. And peanut butter is, I mean, hardly anybody switches from Jif to something else. If you're a loyal peanut butter user, you stick to it. And smokers are like that. Very few smokers switch from one brand to another. The fact is that since tobacco kills off 350,000 of their best customers every year, they've got to replace those people with somebody. Now, that's just the ones they've killed off. There are a million of them that quit smoking.
We're well into the ad ban issue, and obviously, Jeannie's going to completely ignore the First Amendment and the fact that we have free speech in this country, and the American Civil Liberties Union is going to tell you that the proposal to ban cigarette advertising is a blatant violation of the First Amendment, would be a blueprint for censorship of other legal products that are attacked on health grounds, like liquor, for example, would be the next one to go. But beyond that, if it was true that the advertising in the United States caused teenagers to start smoking, or caused smoking in general to rise, it would stand to reason that the 16 countries with total or partial bans on cigarette advertising and promotion would have seen either a big drop-off in the number of people smoking now or a drop in the number of people who started to smoke. In fact, in none of those 16 countries have you seen a decline in smoking or a prevention of people from starting to smoke. And what you've got basically is a proposal you can't guarantee is going to prevent one person from starting to smoke or prevent one person from stopping. It doesn't do any good at all.
I'd like to comment on the whole idea that advertising of a legal product ought to be done. There are all kinds of legal things that we don't allow to be advertised. For example, right now in the state of Minnesota, it is legal to handle snakes. Yet we don't have people have billboards saying, alive with pleasure, handle a rattler today.
Oh, but that's not exactly a commercial product.
There are a lot of silly restrictions on advertising in Minnesota. It's illegal to advertise liquor prices in Minnesota. That doesn't make any sense.
Hang on. There is no other legal product used as directed that causes death and disability to those who use it.
That's an argument again, and that's the prohibition concern that I have. That's an argument for a ban on the product, not for a ban on the advertising.
Go ahead, Scott.
It's an argument again, and that gets to the roundabout concern that I was expressing before. That is what I would assume would be part of the brief for the prosecution for the people who want to ban the product, get rid of cigarettes. But let's have that debate. Let's not have these halfway roundabout debates to suggest that banning cigarette advertising is going to cut down on the number of people smoking. There's not a reason in the world, literally, with those 16 countries, to believe that's going to be the case.
And of course, by the Tobacco Institute saying, obviously, many people would come up with this point that by saying, okay, let's talk about banning the product totally, because, in fact, the Tobacco Institute knows that that will more than likely never happen.
Well, the arguments that you're hearing, though, it seems to me, when you talk about the product, are arguments against the product and for a ban on the product. They are not arguments against the advertising of the
How
product.
do you feel about the Yul Brynner ad that we saw just a moment ago?
Well, actually, I think from one standpoint, that's an excellent advertisement for the industry, to the extent that it illustrates exactly what anti-smoking groups can do without doing serious damage to the First Amendment. They can run those counter-advertising messages on TV against smoking, and you don't have to talk about damaging the First Amendment by trying to ban the legal speech of a legal industry. That's fine from our perspective. They can do that all they want.
Recently, the Supreme Court ruled that there are certain legal products which the government was free to restrict advertising on. It was interesting that tobacco was one of those products.
That's a completely inaccurate reading.
It is also interesting.
Okay, now let's hold it for a second. Let me take this phone call. Good morning. You're on the... She's been holding for quite a long time. Go right ahead.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I am a flight attendant for a major airline here in the Twin Cities, and I am a smoker, but I am so tired of hearing on that aircraft, and we're the ones that hear it all the time, is, I smell smoke, I smell smoke. People are smoking right behind me. Well, on a full plane, you have to have a start point, and you have to have a beginning point, or a finishing point. And personally...
Yeah, and I always get that seat right on the line.
But it is really irritating. After a while, you just let it go in one ear and out the other. What I would like to see, and it's in consideration, is ban on flights, smoking on flights that are under 2 hours. But now I do also fly to Japan quite a bit, and there is no way, as a smoker, that I'm going to go on a 14-hour flight and not have a cigarette.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I'm a non-smoker. I have asthma. Every time I walk in rooms, they're smoking way over in that far corner of KSTP. I can smell it. Because it goes all over no matter what you do. You put up a board here, a curtain there. It doesn't stop the smoke from going through. You go into a motel. I ask, do you have non-smoking rooms? Yes, we have one, but when you get in there a while, you can see the last smoke room, they spray that stuff around so you can't smell it maybe till morning, but it's there, and you're getting it out of the drapes, out of your clothes, out of everything. The floor, the bedding, the mattress, they never wash the spray. You get it from every which way. And I want to go back to you spoke about the food preparation. My husband worked at Armour's for a long time. And if you smoke, you got fired now. If you spit on the floor, it may get put on the floor for a while, stay home for a week, maybe. But smoking is entirely bad because smoke goes into it.
And we'll take a break and be right back.
The age-old dilemma. Which temperature to wash in? Follow the label, but will that grass even budge? Pick the one that cleans grass, and this shirt might fade. Be safe or clean, so what do you do? Simple. Choose New Cheer. New Cheer. It cleans some of the toughest stains in hot, warm, and cold. So next time clothes say one thing and the stain another, follow the label and choose New Cheer. The right answer to tough cleaning in all temperatures.
The stars, what secrets do they hold for you? Love, success, wealth? Now, Jeanne Dixon charts your horoscope and guides you through the day with her new daily action guide. Let Jeanne help you make the right decision at the right time 3 times a day. Call 976-3333. Don't have a touch-tone phone? You can still get your daily horoscope. Reach for the stars. Call Jeanne Dixon's Horoscope and Daily Action Guide now. 976-3333. Only 95 cents per call.
Loving hands that decorate the season, helping hands that work away. Playful hands that la-la-la-la-la-la-la walk the avenue. Caring hands that celebrate the reason for this happy holiday. Giving hands that la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la bring this wish to you.
Introducing a new kind of antiperspirant shape to glide along your shape. A new crystal clear antiperspirant. Presenting new Glide On, only from Arid. Not a thick, crumbly stick, not a drippy roll-on, but a new clear, clean formula that glides on. Just turn up the amount you need for effective Arid protection, so you can get a little closer. New Arid Glide On, clear Arid protection that glides on.
All right, this is for all you grandmothers, mothers, and daughters who are watching Twin Cities Live this morning. The relationship between 3 generations can be quite complex and indeed very interesting. Do you, as an adult daughter, have a special relationship with your mother and also one with your mother's mother? Well, we want to hear from you. On January 2nd, we will feature grandmothers, mothers, and their adult daughters. Call us at 641-1298. That's 641-1298 if you would like to share your special relationship with us here on Twin Cities Live, or perhaps be part of our studio audience that day. It's 641-1298.
We're a small town, homegrown, made the way you make your own pizza. Tombstone, we're a ladle down and loaded up with lots of mozzarella on the pizza. Tombstone,
we pile on the goodness, we're loaded with real cheese.
We're sure the taste of Tombstone's gonna please, gonna please your family. We're a small town, homegrown, made the way you make your own pizza. Tombstone, made the way you make your very own. Tombstone.
Time takes you beyond the news.
Time flies, and you are there. Time flies, and lets you care. You understand the world we share.
When you read Time each week, you know more. You understand.
Throughout your world, throughout your land, time puts it all right in your hand. Read Time and understand.
From the fashion capitals of the world, a truly international collection of fine luggage, leather goods, handbags, unique, unusual, unsurpassed. For that very special person, remember Pedro of St. Paul, a holiday tradition since 1914. Internationally acclaimed, Pedro of St. Paul, 10th and Robert, downtown.
Clap on, clap off, clap on, clap off. The clapper.
Lets you turn things on or off from anywhere in the room. Just plug in the clapper and a television, lamp, stereo, almost anything you want to clap on and off.
Clap on, clap off, clap on, clap off. The clapper.
At Snyder, Red Owl, Woolworth, Snyder Brothers, and participating Ace, True Value, Eagle Drugs, and Hardware Inc.
If you would like to get more information about smoking from the Tobacco Institute, you can call 202-457-4800, 202-457-4800. If you would like to have information from the Association for Non-Smokers, you can call 339-1902, 339-1902. Go ahead.
Well, this is directed to Mr. Stapf. I have 2 questions. Why is it that we know it's harming our bodies, but yet you still make tobacco? It kills people. And my other question is directed to Jeanne. When I go somewhere with my family, and we're friends at that fact, and we're sitting in the smoking section, do I have the right to say, I don't want you to smoke because, it's affecting me? All
right, Scott, jump in there real quickly on that.
Sure. It's a legal industry. It employs 2.1 million people a year, directly and indirectly. It contributes about 2.5% of the gross national product. nothing to be ashamed at all from the standpoint of economic contribution. Again, that gets back to the argument about do you want to ban the industry or not, and that's really a separate question.
And as far as being in a smoking section, does he have the right to ask them not to smoke?
I don't think you ever abandon your rights to clean air. However, I would think it would be prudent for you to sit in the non-smoking section.
Hi, I work at Metropolitan Medical Center. I teach a program called Smoke Stoppers. I really believe most smokers would like to quit smoking. They might not always admit it because maybe they think they can't. They'd be embarrassed. I want people to remember it's a learned behavior. You can learn how not to do something. You can learn how to become a comfortable non-smoker, how to respond to stressful situations in other ways than by smoking.
Scott, won't smoking eventually disappear anyway because the amount of smokers is declining? Am I not correct in that?
I don't see that happening at all. I think that's the pipe dream of a lot of people in the anti-smoking movement, but it's not going to happen.
Go ahead.
I know advertising is working because if I didn't have a little more willpower, I think I would start smoking because it looks real glamorous on TV.
You started smoking because of the ad?
No, I'm a non-smoker, but if I didn't have a little more willpower, I think I would.
I've got a little funny about advertising to tell. A girlfriend of mine who quit smoking, 10 or 15 years ago, was driving down the freeway and she saw a Marlboro ad with the guy on the horse and he's romping along. She looked at it and she said, I want one of those. I want one real bad. And then she asked herself, which do I want? The man or the cigarette?
And
she couldn't decide which.
I'd share this quick anecdote with you. Norway has had a total ban on cigarette advertising for 10 years. The level of teenage smoking in the United States is 19%. The level of smoking by teenagers in Norway is 39%. The last time any 18-year-old saw an ad in Norway was 8 years old. It's not a very good case for a ban on ads.
Hi, I'm a health educator in the school systems, and I have a real concern for children being heard. And I was just speaking to who I assume is your son here, and he told me that sometimes I tell my daddy to quit smoking and I throw his cigarettes in the garbage because I'm afraid he's going to die.
Well, I know that's an
What does that
absolute
say to
lie.
you?
He's not my son. I'm taking care of him, so you're completely off the mark.
Well, I
That's
apologize
stretching
for
the
that.
point to try
I
to
apologize for
fabricate
that, but
something.
Do you have children, Scott?
No, I don't have children.
You don't have children?
No, I'm taking care of a
This is a
child.
small child that already knows that cigarette smoking could kill
That's fine.
father.
We think people should look at the information and decide for themselves. No, in terms of evaluating the information, that's their thing to do.
Okay, I think one of the things that is coming about is through all these little battles that the American tobacco industry is having to face, is people are becoming educated to the fact that, hey, smoking is bad, not only for me, but for...
Hotel accommodations and dining provided by the Radisson University Hotel, 615 Washington Avenue Southeast on the University of Minnesota East Bank campus. Limousine service for the guests of Twin Cities Live, provided by Henderson Chauffeured Cadillacs. Bob Bruce's wardrobe is provided by Justers. Hair and makeup provided by Take 5, 504 North 1st Avenue in the Butler Building.
A short time, just a quick comment. Scott, to wrap things up?
I think what we're seeing increasingly is a radicalization of the anti-smoking movement as opposed to non-smokers out there. What we're going to see is more and more calls for bans, not restrictions on smoking, extreme attacks on the First Amendment like a ban on advertising. It's not going to happen because most people aren't going to go that far.
Jeanne?
I have here a little booklet that was produced in 1923, which is advertising the wonders of lead. Lead in pipes, lead in plates, lead in everything you use. Draw your own conclusions.
Thank you very much for being with us. We'll see you Monday on Twin Cities Live.